Good morning, everyone. That's right. It is cold. The winter months have definitely set in. January's almost over with, folks, but it's going out with a blast, a cold blast down here in the South, in the great state of Louisiana, where I broadcast my podcast and streams on Twitch, Staying Super with SimplySuperDave. I hope everybody's having a wonderful, it's hump day. So that's always a good day of the week, right? You're halfway through the week, looking towards Friday like the light at the end of the tunnel. You think you can make it. Just don't let it collapse. That's how I feel most hump days, and it's no different than this week. Like I said, I'm at the bottom of the barrel, so my perspective on things might be a little different to most folks. And if you've ever wanted to get a perspective from the bottom, then keep on listening. One of the things you probably noticed in the podcast that I am a strange person. The way I think might be a little bit unique and out of perspective. Well, it didn't come with a price, folks. That lovable power is just as much as a responsibility as it is a curse sometimes. And then there's a third option. You know, most people are like, well, which one is it? Most of the times in your life, it'll be one or to be the other. You know, nothing comes without a price. That's all I'm saying, folks. And if you think about it, you know exactly what I mean. Love has hate. Love has disappointment. There's a lot of opposites to love that can come back and bite that little chunk right on out of it. We all try to keep things in the green, right? We don't want anything to dip in the red. We don't want to be negative on a whole lot of things. And so the goal in life, I guess, is to hover around that middle, huh? Yeah? You know, it's like if you can keep it there, you're doing good. Because the bad things are going to happen. You can't control everything. One of the things you can't control, though, is who you are. And the biggest thing in my life is the self-discovery part, the figuring myself out. Why do I think the way I do? Why do I have a fear of this? Here's one. We're going to really get into this. For one, folks, if you don't know by now, I have proclaimed it several times, and I'll do it many more. I am a recluse. But by nature, we have to have money to, survive. And since I'm not on any kind of government funding whatsoever, I have to strive to figure out how to do it all on my own. And no, I don't have a check-paying job, so I have to make everything by cash. So that makes life a little bit more interesting. And we'll get into the whole money conspiracy theory I have on things and how that's going to change your life this year. That will be actually our next episode. I promise you that. And we will delve into the possible future. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I really hope it don't. But it's going to happen to some degree. But the digital dollar is coming, and I hope you're ready. That's all I'm saying. Think about it, folks. It's happening already. It's already got the transition. We just need to get rid of that physical money. Yeah. We can't have anybody stashing away something they don't know about. Because government runs the people here, right? No, this country's built on people running the government. But there's a lot of people out there that don't have voices. And reclusive people that don't want to get into the fray of things, and they stay on the outside. The crowd, when you're watching a football game, not everybody's playing the game, but everybody's into the game. And as much as the crowd cheers or boos, they cannot change the outcome of it. Think about that. Well, that's sort of how life is in general, okay? There's a lot of people, and they have a lot of influence. They can let you know how they all feel, but they don't dictate what's happening. And that ain't how it's supposed to work here. Our country was, believe it or not, okay, you're going to have to forget the football game, but imagine a wrestling match where the crowd cheers or boos to determine the outcome of the match. In some wrestling matches, that actually happens. Because sometimes magic happens, and you don't want to make that person lose when they could win, and you could build momentum. Just think about it. Life is the way we do everything is all staged to work out beautifully, right? We all want the beautiful Hollywood story to all work out for us. We all have been just, I don't know what the word is, flooded to the brim with just TV, radio, music. And then you find out now that a lot of that wasn't even their music. It was someone else written. It's been selected by this few amount of people because they want this agenda pushed on this. You could do a song you like, but we got these 10 that you got to do. Okay, and that's how they come up with a lot of albums with so many songs, because they're already pre-written, and it's to push a generation, the next one, to this way, to think this way, blah, blah, blah. Not saying your music is corrupted. I love music. The art of music to me is meaningful, but we've gone from a poetic justice system of music all the way to just a... I love the uncensorship, but I miss the poetic side of it. And I know there's music out there like that, but it's never pushed. You kind of have to find it. So it is what it is, right? It is what it is. But like I said before, we'll never have another music icon like we did in the 80s or even somewhat in the 90s. Like Juice WRLD is probably one of the biggest icons of today because of his death, but his music that he left behind and how it's pushed. Tupac Shakur. Another one, but they are all, we'll never have another Michael Jackson, or a Madonna, for example. I know she's been in the news a lot lately because she's, I can't even tell you how old she is, 69 or something, and she is doing, touring. She's touring. She's not just releasing music. She's going on a tour, and she's doing her sliding and Like a Virgin bit and everything like she did 20, 30 years, 40 years ago. 40 years ago. That's unbelievable. But at some point, I kind of wonder if her and Michael, just like Michael, were signed in to where even if they wanted to quit, would they? I don't know. That's an artist thing. I think artists do it till the day they die. So I don't believe in that conspiracy theory to the point where they can't stop performing. I think Bob Dylan wants to keep performing. He wants to die on stage, just like Ric Flair wants to die in the ring. That's why Ricky Steamboat turned down that match, because I think that he knew that's what Ric Flair wanted to do, and I don't think Ricky wanted to have any part of that. I don't think any wrestler will, but we'll see on that. Ric Flair is a legend, a real true legend, one of the last ones, icons. I hate to use that word, I really do, because that just feels blasphemous when I say icon. I don't like legends is better. I think that's the highest status a human being can achieve. Icon could be Michael, just like Michael Jordan. I mean, at his prime, at his height of his popularity, and still today, the world knows who Michael Jordan is. He hadn't played basketball in 20 years. So, I mean, says a lot. And you can't predict that. You can't make it. The only person that can make it was Michael Jordan. That was it. How the world reacted to him, that he has no control over that. He could just make decisions that affect his life, and they paid off brilliantly. And then you have people like me who, no matter what decision you make, you seem to, as much as you believe in them, when you get at the age of 50, you look back. I didn't have this mentality when I was 20 years younger, okay? But the reclusive side of me makes it hard to deal with a lot of things. So it was important to me, no matter how many people listen to this, that I left at least a digital imprint of thoughts from a person that you would never hear this from. It means a lot to me because I feel like if it helps one person, if it makes anybody think, or if it helps them in any way, then I may have had some purpose. As a recluse, you get wrapped up in your thoughts. To the point where you realize that you can pretty much take every emotion and make a personality out of them. And I believe we all are split up like that, happy, sad, how you deal with it when you're angry, because when you are in a moment or a feeling or an emotion and it overwhelms you, it affects your very thinking, judgment, and everything in your life. Kind of shatters it a little bit and changes back, and it's different. I think those moments you cannot predict. And sometimes it'll hit you in the middle of the night, and your whole mood just changes. Have you ever gone to sleep and wake up the next day and remember everything that you wish you would have forgotten? Or remembered things that you should have remembered days ago? I think everybody feels these things. But sometimes one is a little bit more dominant than the most. And we are like our own stereos. You remember the old stereos? I know only certain Gen X people probably remember this as probably one of the last generations. Used to have stereos in our parents' houses, in our homes, where you had to adjust the bass and the treble. I mean, we all do that with our digital stuff. We always like to mess with the equalizers. But you always got in trouble if you messed with them because, Dad would be, or Grandpa would be mad at you for messing with the stereo. God, I miss those. You ain't got to worry about that anymore. That's one of those things in generations, people, that will be forgotten about. One of those little tidbit things that didn't mean anything, but it affected a whole generation, and everybody gets to laugh at it. But that generation, there's the last generation to that. Nobody messes with anybody's stereo settings anymore and gets pissed off about them. Interesting aspect about it. And that's the love I have for life, is little things like that. It makes me laugh. I really look in like the darkest corners, and the spots that I try to think that you would forget about, just to find those little happy moments, And the funny part is, at the time it happens, is something you get pissed off about. Like, God, I fucking didn't. It wasn't matter about the stereo. You start arguing, and next thing you know, you're in a bad place. But you should just shut up. You're right. It's not your stereo. You shouldn't fuck with it, right? But no, as a kid, you're always going to be rebellious. You get mad about it. They don't understand me, all that kind of shit over a radio or a stereo. And it ain't until years later until they, I don't know. It's just funny. It's how life is, and I've always felt, as a recluse, alone. Because if I could, I just would stay in a hole. I'd be like a hobbit. I would live in the ground, seriously, and grow stuff from my hill and eat from that, and be happy. Sit around all day, making the best bread in the world. Just that would be the extent of my life. But I'm not a hobbit. I don't live in a hole, and I have to get out, and I have to go to work every day, so I have to deal with people. And I say I have to deal with people, and that sounds so negative, and I don't mean it to be that way. I really don't. But I'm also have this honest side about me, and that's due to something else that I have recently got into, and might explain why I'm so reclusive. And that's cool, because like I said, life is understanding yourself. And as we get older and get smarter and wiser and more humble about our lives, we're willing to accept our inefficiencies to make them more efficient. And one of mine is trying not to be a reclusive. And so the podcast is a result of that experiment from over 2 years ago when I started streaming. And out of that, I've actually made an eclectic group of digital friends. And I say digital friends because real life people and digital people are different to me. But there's a barrier. And a couple of those people in that group of digital friends have become really good, close friends of mine. And to those guys, you don't know how much you mean to me. Thank you for that. And the inspiration to keep doing things like this. And And coming from a deep, dark place from a few years back, I actually would say about 15 years ago. A few years back gets longer as you get older, trust me. But from a deep, dark place where I wished I had those friendships. They would have probably saved me from going deeper into a hole. And so, if it wasn't for the ideas and the inspiration from good friendships, then you wouldn't have a reason to get up every day sometimes, And because sometimes life can get pretty rough on us, and it can get to the point where you wake up and you don't know what you're doing. You're like, why, and some people get to a point where they really that they aren't searching anymore. They have given up. I still search every morning, so I'm not in a bad place yet, but it does make me think about a lot of things. So when I'm able to do the podcast, I talk about topics that consume my mind because I am the way I am. And I also like to make people think about things because I've always been a person seeking attention once I'm allowed to be who I am. And what I mean by that is I'm the guy that shows up at the party, doesn't say anything for 2 hours, but once someone talks to me or digs me out of the hole I've found comfortable in for the first hour to drink as many beers as I can or whatever. Kamikazes is a preferred liquor drink I would pick. I will open up. And once I do, it's a waterfall. And you don't know how to turn it off. Nobody does. I have to literally, figure it out myself. I've gotten good about that. But in my 20s, I was a neurotic. I used to stay up from countless hours in a coffee shop or what you call a 24-hour diner. Back in the day where you can get a bottomless cup of coffee all night and just sit there because there's maybe 10 or 15 people in the whole restaurant at one given time at the most, half full, if a quarter full. So I could sit there and just draw because I love to draw. And I never slept. I worked jobs, and I mean that plural, jobs. And I always have, until recently. And that's only because I'm turning 50 almost. And my body has given out on me a little bit. So the podcast is also about a movie inspiration. And I'm going to talk about that. I believe it's also from 1994, ironically, weirdly. I swear this year has the greatest eclectic. Go look at the list of movies. I swear every movie that came out that year is worth watching. But the movie is called My Life, with Michael Keaton, of course, and Nicole Kidman as the wife. He is a man who finds out he's going to probably die before his child is born. What a storyline, right? Depressing. I mean, if you read the synopsis, you got to be ready. You got to be ready when you go into this one. But the whole synopsis is back then he used to make VHS tapes of things he wanted to teach his son because he knew it was going to be a boy, I think. Because at one point or maybe he didn't. Maybe he made alternate versions, I don't know. But I know at one point he teaches him how to shave. So that seems like a, man to boy moment. Teaching a young man how to shave. And it's just in that moment, because I think he was in the car and I think he did something and he was just like he had to share that moment. And he wanted to make sure that even though he wasn't there anymore, that his son would still learn his lessons of how to become a man from his father and not somebody else. Even though, probably, in real life, down the road, the boy probably had the tapes and it would be an influence. But I don't know. That's still it was a touching thing to know, to deal with, your ultimate demise and know what you want to leave behind. So in this episode, I kind of wanted to bear it all out there a little bit and just say that we have many more topics to go. And as rough as life is, and sometimes I get holes in my bubble and I get a little deflated, but that's why I do the podcast, to say the very things that I say to myself all day, every day, and what I think about. So anything, if I ever get down on myself and I actually listen to one of these things again, which by the way, be honest truth, I listened to the first few, but to be honest with you, I can't listen to myself anymore. That's why I'm doing these things. I don't need to be told, or, I do want to break down and get better, and I probably will listen again at some point for that, but like I said, this is all about raw material and who I am. I want to leave behind my imprint, my life. And that way, when the untimely time comes, if anybody, missed me personally, then they would have a reminder of me. But hopefully, if anything, the message I'm trying to spread, which is think. Embrace your life. Don't feel chained to an anchor that's going to pull you down. And I'm talking about life. It is what you make it, and how you look at it, and how you perceive it. And when it becomes an overwhelming flood, in whatever form that it takes in your life, then it's best to be ready for it, because you're going to go through it. There's no stopping that. There's no cure for that. That's who you are. But controlling how you survive it, well, that's all about preparation. And that's all these podcasts do for me as my therapy. So I can figure out myself and be more responsible for my words and my actions. Because God bless everything that I give any kind of advice on in here, I am a huge failure at. But I try to be a success at. So I keep trying every day. So I hope everybody enjoys their hump day. And don't worry, that light at the end of the tunnel, we'll all get there together. All we need is that love and laughter to conquer all that inner hate and fear. We'll all be conquerors today. I'll see you tomorrow.